Hello and welcome to the Metapod Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. Chilling Reign is out, but TPCI has just revealed two products that feature Lugia and Ho-Oh EX. That's right, Sean. EX.
I mean, there was some old product that got shipped out to my stores as well, like some old EX starter decks, like starter decks from like Keldeo, I think. EX, the starter deck got sent out, and then they did the Sun and Moon. What is it? The Sun and Moon base ETBs got sent out to a bunch of stores.
I saw like the video that the Wasi posted earlier, and it's I can't remember exactly what they're called. They're legendary battle decks. So they're like battle
the league
decks,
battle decks,
you know,
yeah.
like the ADP and the peak and stuff. They're going to EXs though. I
think that my guess is they're old products and that they are just like I wonder if Pokemon Company had some sort of a buyback thing where they had to like all this product that didn't sell X number of years ago, they bought back at some point and are now like re-releasing it because they think that there's enough interest for people to actually buy it. Maybe.
It's kind of cool because it features a lot of cards that like are non-holo versions of holo cards, and like I think like the early X and Y late Heart Gold Silver era, which is kind of cool. But then also like there's holo energies in there, which everybody loves holo energies. But it's probably, especially with the craze, like it's kind of cool where it's like a lot of people probably don't have these.
So wait, are you saying this is a net new thing? Like this wasn't a thing that's getting resold like 4 years later?
Oh yeah, this is a new thing. This is a new thing, Sean.
Is there anything in there that would make sense for competitive play?
No.
In expanded?
Well, maybe like an expanded. Like
yeah,
there's the Safeguard Suicune in the Ho-Oh deck. The Ho-Oh is the one that's the Rebirth Ho-Oh. Comes from the discard attached to some energy. So like it's okay and expanded. Right, there's some viability in there, but like
I feel like
it's just really out of the blue.
I feel like they're reprinting the wrong cards, though. If you know what I mean.
I don't think it's reprinted though.
No, but I mean like if you print a version of a card that's not holo, right? Like you could have printed the A specs and put them in these decks as non-holos that are like tournament legal. I don't know. Just a thought, TPCI. You could have done that.
Just a thought, if you're gonna print maybe some black and white cards, early X and Y, like
reprint some old Shamans.
Shaman's banned everywhere. Why would you?
Banned or is Scoop Up Net banned? I can never remember.
Shaman got banned. Yeah, Shaman EX got banned and expanded, so it is literally unplayable.
Okay, fine. Don't reprint Shaman. Shows you how much I follow expanded.
You do need the A specs though. You do need the A specs, I will say. But we got a lot to talk about today. We got some topics. The team challenge tournament just started with the like big Shang World Tournament. And Sean and I each have some thoughts about that. And then also not only with 2 new wonderful reviews, Sean, we've hit 40 reviews on our way to 50. Make sure if you like the podcast to leave a review, especially if it's on Apple. I don't think Spotify allows reviews yet. So Spotify, get your freaking horse going.
Spotify just launched a trial of lyrics on the same pages, which people were like, they didn't have that before. And the answer was no, apparently.
Lyrics? Like song lyrics?
Yeah, they did not have that.
You could do that on mobile. Could you not do that on desktop? I guess you can do that on desktop.
I saw a tweet but somebody being like, Spotify is testing out lyrics, and it was like, huh. That's pretty wild if they didn't have that before. I don't know. I'm not a music person, but I saw that tweet and I was like, huh, that is weird.
Anyways, we got that. And then Chilling Reign had released, and it's kind of interesting, the meta per se. So we definitely want to talk about that because that is probably what a lot of people are interested in right now. But Sean?
Yes.
I think I read the review this week.
You have the review this week.
Okay. So we got one on June 14th. Hirsch Villa, 5-star review. Just started listening. I've just started listening to the podcast and want to say thanks for all the great content. Going back and listening to all the old episodes. Hopefully I can find the YouTube channel to Hirsch Villa and any other person that wants to, check us out on the YouTube see Sean's beautiful face here
Hey,
on the podcast. All you got to do is go to Atrocious Gameplay. It's my YouTube channel. That's where these are being uploaded. I'm in the process of like getting ready to move and also doing a lot of other things, finding a job. So hopefully in the future, I can get the old episodes. Sean has given me a lot of the recordings for the old episodes. So
sans video,
like before episode 40.
Yeah.
For episode 40, it won't be a video one, but it'll be audio. And I'm trying to think of like some creative, good looking thing to like put. So you're not just looking at a solid screen that's not moving, but thank you so much for the 5-star review, my friend. I appreciate it. Sean appreciates it too.
I do. And the link to the YouTube channel is in the description of all the episodes if you're listening on an audio platform. So you should be able to find it there if you can figure out how to get to your description setting area for your podcast.
We try to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Try to make it easy for you. But Sean, you know what's not easy?
That's a great transition, Jake. I like that one.
You know what's not easy? The team challenge. Not only the team challenge are you facing up against a group of other people from another store and putting your skills to the test, but it could be hard to fit in the scheduling.
Yeah.
Sean. So for those of you that don't know, literally before the first team challenge ended, literally before the first one even ended, they started doing qualifiers for the second one. We kind of briefly talked about it a couple weeks ago, but wasn't really like a big talking point for us. I made it onto my team. Sean couldn't do a ton of them. Sean did not make it. I tried to make it sound nice for you.
But you know what? I will say that I did my part. You know that meme? I did my part. I did my part and I participated and I got some friends to participate. So our store could still qualify because they have weird rules about needing 4 players for every event at least.
Yeah, so the first round happened to be Father's Day weekend, Sean. The first round, Father's Day weekend, 2 weekends before the 4th of July, which, by the way, the tournament will still be going on during that time. But what's crazy, Sean, not only did it happen the same weekend literally the same day starting, or well, not exactly the same day because it was officially on Sunday. The default time was on Sunday. We decided to play on Saturday just because of scheduling and stuff. But either way, it happened the same weekend as Players Cup 4, right? If you made top 256 or 128 in your region, you played in Players Cup 4 on Saturday and Sunday, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I don't think it was Friday. I think it was just Saturday and Sunday. But as well, I don't know if this was just because my store didn't let us know soon enough or whatever, but we didn't find out about our round even going. Like, I was under the impression that it was going to be after the 4th of July that this was going to start. We found out about it on Wednesday. Deck lists are due like 1 a.m. Friday or something like that.
Yeah.
They're due 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. on Friday because it was like 11 p.m. West Coast time, which is such a weird time as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, as you can already tell, like, there's a lot of scheduling conflicts. I think it's important for us in America to keep in mind that Father's Day, I don't know if it's an international thing.
Well, neither Father's Day or the 4th of July is an international thing, but like I guess like I should have looked up, like, is there European holidays like after the 4th of July, or like
it may simply be that as far as holidays are concerned, the Pokemon Company was like, you know what? There's always going to be holidays on weekends, especially in the summer in some country, in some region. So we can't work around that. But what they could have worked around was their own Players Cup.
Yeah, like it was just, and not only like, see, I probably would have been more okay with like not only it happening on that weekend, but like getting such like, because like 2 days to turn in your deck list and, you know, your scheduling is pretty close timeline. So like if I would have gotten like a week's notice, or like, I don't know, like 2 weeks notice, or when everybody like when all the qualifiers ended, letting us know, Like, I don't know if that was a problem on
I,
my store's part
for some
or
reason,
like,
I felt like I knew about the store that I go to's qualifier before Wednesday. Like we knew some information, and they were trying to work out scheduling for a while. So I want to say that one may be your store.
it's just like, I don't, like, still even then, like, let's just say it was a week. Let's just say it was a week. Like, yes, that would have been better, and I would have been more okay with that. But is a week like a lot of time?
I think in a circumstance where it's just you playing in a tournament by yourself, a week is fine. I think the problem
Yeah.
with the team challenge is you have to coordinate a group of 4 players plus the tourney organizer as the judge, or plus the store organizer judge on each side to find a window of time where everyone can play concurrently. And that's the part that's not easy because like okay, well, hey, when's everybody available? Everybody's got different schedules. Like to your point, some people are going to be playing in the Players Cup. So if
Yeah.
anyone on either team is in the Players Cup and they need to play because maybe somebody else also just isn't available this weekend for personal reasons, well, then you have to work around the whole Players Cup, which means like, okay, can you play early morning Saturday or late at night or Friday or Thursday even? Like I know there were some people contemplating playing on a weeknight but it's just really complicated. And I know that my local store had the exact same issue. I don't know how they work. I could check their Discord, but like they must have worked it out. But I don't envy anyone who's having to schedule these week in, week out.
And another crazy thing is like it's last minute scheduling stuff, but like we're under the impression, okay, we're gonna play on Sunday. You know, that was the default time. You know, majority of people could make that, so it's like, okay, we'll just play during then. And then we like the next day it was like Thursday. We're like, oh, Saturday actually is gonna work. And so we're like, okay, like now this person can't make it on Saturday, but this person can't. And so we're like, oh, Saturday. And then on Friday, like Friday morning, it was like, you know what, we got to go back to Sunday. We got to go back to Sunday. And then like literally Friday night, it was again, we got to go back to Saturday. And then we ended up playing on Saturday. And it's just like, I hated it. I hated like almost every aspect of the team challenge.
I think that
I mean, like playing with my friends at the store and like,
sure.
you know, like us being able to coordinate is like really, really cool. And I'm sure like a lot of other stores probably didn't have the same experience that I'm having. But like, I feel like if we just, like, I just want to know who's scheduling all these things because this is a typical thing of Pokemon. If you don't follow like all Pokemon events, and like Pokemon Go, Pokemon Sword and Shield, you know, Pokemon games releasing, they love putting a lot of things at the same time. So like when Pokemon Snap released, there was also like a community day in Pokemon Go. There was also a max raid event happening in Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Like across all these games, like something happening in Pokemon Masters as well. Like all these things are just happening at the exact same time. It's like, why can't we space this out? I can't do all these things at once.
I personally think that all the games releases, all that stuff, it's kind of like there's like so many different departments. I don't think that has necessarily any relation to this. I do know that the team challenge, I believe, the people that run that from an organization standpoint, I believe, are based out of Europe. I don't know if maybe the North American team runs the Players Cup. And because they are two different parts of the TPCI organization, maybe they just, and they're kind of like it's their own project, right? Team Challenge is this person's project or this team's project, and Players Cup is this team's project. And, you know, it's just like, well, we'll just start running it on this date. And like, oh, well, we could push it a week but like, they just do it. You know, they're like, F it. Well, people will figure it out.
I just feel like, you know, you look at a calendar, you know, okay, Pokemon TCG, right? Pokemon TCG has a calendar. Competitive Pokemon TCG has a calendar. You would see like, oh, these are going to start on the same weekend. This is going to have the most clash of players.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is the first rounds each for all these players. And so it's like they're happening at the same time. And it's just like, if you would have waited a week, you would have way less people having clashes, and like every week that you wait is less and less people because people are being knocked out every single round.
And
so it's like,
well, and also like the Players' Cup is going to take precedence for any individual player over the team challenge because, to be frank, Pokemon and TCGs in general reward individual accomplishment over team accomplishment. So like, if you made Players' Cup, you're not going to not do your Players' Cup and do team challenges. No, you're going to have to, like, everybody then has to work around the Players' Cup players. And I don't know. It's just, I think that, to be honest, the Players' Cup, I think they need to hang it up after the team challenge. I think they need to hang up the idea after this one. It's too complicated scheduling wise. I think it's a lot of work, honestly, to ask all of the store judges and tourney organizers for all the individual stores. And like, I really like the idea of it. And
it's a great idea.
The pricing is also way better.
Oh my gosh,
Players'
it's phenomenal.
Cup. Yeah, Players' Cup pricing is garbage, and Team Challenge pricing is amazing. And so it's so weird, but like, it's just, I don't think they should keep doing it. I think it's too complicated.
My tinfoil hat is coming on, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're rushing all these events, getting it out the window. You know, summer is a long time. You want to have a summer team challenge. The summer just started.
Mm-hmm.
I think that IRL events are a lot closer than we think. That's my hot take. Bag it, ship it, clip it. There's no reason to be clumping all of this stuff together. There's no reason outside of they're going to start IRL events again, and therefore they're going to stop doing like online events.
I think that if they were going to start it up, I think new rotation is when they would do it. It just makes sense logically.
Oh yeah.
I think that the
late August is when they start.
The question will be, you know, again, there's that geopolitical aspect of COVID. Here in America, we're doing pretty well comparatively, but like, you know, a number of places in Europe are not doing so great. I would say Latin America, particularly Brazil, which we know Brazil has a large contingent of Pokemon players. They are doing very poorly right now with respect to the other nations. And so like, if they do open up events, you know, and they're like sanctioned CP type events, they'll probably just have to like say like they'll open for this region. Here's the points qualifier for this region. And if you are not in one of those regions, we'll let you know when you start, and your points qualifier will be a different threshold.
I wonder if they go towards like, they go back to like cities, states format. And so like that way you don't have the international aspect. You know, you don't have your ICs. You know, you can still have like North American championships,
sure,
but restricted to just like US citizens, or like you can have Latin American championships, you know, just restricting it to Latin America. I know that doesn't like solve everything, but like that way you don't have like the international travel, and then you don't have to have a Worlds as well. You don't have to worry about a World Championships, and you can still have like a point system somewhat to do some sort of rewards. I know, but like I know a while ago I said on the podcast they gotta bring it all back at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said that on a previous episode of the podcast. But I feel like it wouldn't be that bad of an idea if they reintroduce like cities and states.
I know a lot of people who played back in the day of cities and states. They loved that format. I'm sure there's probably issues with every one of them. But
oh yeah, there's issues with any type of event.
But I do think that like making it cities and states as opposed to challenges and cups, cities and states, it has this impact of elevating, I think, local play a little bit. And yeah, it maybe makes it a little bit, I don't know, wonkier from a points perspective because regions is, I don't know. But I do think elevating local play again is a good call. And if that framing of cities and states as opposed to leagues and cups, if that will help, I think this is a great opportunity for Pokemon to change things up. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to go back to what they had before. They just don't feel like
it seems like a good idea because you're saying like do locally.
Yeah.
And you look at all these products that they've released, you know, that's literally the grassroots of local is like in people's houses, like learning how to play the game, getting cool cards, and learning how to build decks and stuff. So they've already made that groundwork for these local people to start going, to these local places. So I don't know. I think it's a great idea. TPCI has not hired me. I don't have any insider knowledge. I mean, cough, cough. If you want to talk to me, I'm all ears. But I just I think that would be a great idea. I think it'd be a great idea, and it could just be for this 1 year only. With boosters and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
like coming, we don't know how the winter's going to be.
Yeah, if you're still uncertain about whether or not you're going to be able to hold Worlds because you don't know when international travel is going to open back up outside of the US, like just say, you know what, F it, we're going to hold 2021, 2022 season will be focused on individual countries, opening up play. And then if at a later point we decide to do a Worlds for 2022, we'll figure out the structure for that later. But like for now, like let's just do it on a country by country basis. And to your point, reintroduce locals, city, states, and nationals.
I just want to know what they're going to do with all the people aging up that technically haven't aged up yet.
I mean,
year three of seniors when you're like 18 years old and you're still in seniors.
I think
whatever. That's just a mess. But you know what else is a mess, Sean? The format of Chilling Reign, which actually isn't really a mess. I think it was I think it's kind of like this could have been predicted. I don't think that this is out of the realm of what people thought was going to happen after opening weekend of Chilling Reign. As you can see here, Pikarom, it won. It won
the first large event, like 100+ people, after Chilling Reign was released on PTCGO, which was the Chill Cup. So how many people were in this one? 184 people in this one. And Pikarom somehow managed to squeak by and stay relevant. Who knows? Let's see if there's anything in this deck that is in any way interesting.
It is literally just the standard Chilling Reign list. That's really what this is.
Interesting.
So not really anything different, just going with the old reliable, old faithful that we've seen the last couple of months, and it worked out pretty well. Yeah. It worked out pretty well, I would say. You have, as the second place person, you have the Urshifu.
Yeah, Rapid Strike.
So Pikarom taking down the Urshifu in this deck. This is helping with Passimian. Passimian helping you with that Zigzagoon and the Scoop of Net to potentially one-shot like Day-Day's on the bench. Which is a very, very strong card. Mew still being relevant, although not played in that Pikarom list, Sean. No Mew in that. So, and I mean, aside from like the Echo Horn, that Rapid Strike deck is pretty much the same. So
yeah, I mean,
top two, just working out.
I think Passimian definitely helped, right? Because if you think of, Pikarom, ADPZ, a lot of these decks, if you put down a couple of bench sitters, and now all of a sudden, if your Urshifu can do not 120 to the bench, but with Passimian 150, with the telescopic sight, 180 to the bench?
Or the Zigzagoon, just a simple 160.
Exactly. So, like, all of a sudden, you're easily one-shotting things, maybe one-shotting a couple of different things at once, taking 4 prizes. That, I think, is a pretty big deal. Obviously it suffers from if you hit too many Shadow Rider Calyrexes, even though you have Jirachi, but like, all they have to do is play Path to the Peak and you're
see ya, Jirachi.
Yeah, you are pretty screwed at that point. I think that might be a little bit of an anomaly there, is a Rapid Strike deck doing particularly well. But what you can see in the first tournament, though, there was 2 Shadow Riders in the top 4 on the very first event. Let's take a look at one of these lists, and we can also see how it evolves. But yeah, what this shows me, and this is weird, by the way, the third place list is running Power Plant and not Path to the Peak, which I'm like, what? Wait.
I mean, Power Plant is still a pretty good card. I mean, you think about it, it still shuts off those GX and EX Pokemon,
I
and it's
mean,
any of them. It's any of
sure,
them that have that ability.
sure, but why would you run power
Maybe you
play?
just didn't have Path to the Peak, okay?
Maybe.
You
You
only
know what?
traded for the Shadow Riders. You didn't have enough packs to get one more. You didn't have like two more packs to get your Path to the Peaks, and so you're like, all right, I'm just gonna settle with Power Play. And it still got third place, Sean.
That's true. So, for those of you out there who are listening, we'll describe this deck a little bit. It's a 4/4 line of the Shadow Rider, but I think what this deck focuses on, the decks that have been winning, I feel like, are focusing on is a combo of Trevnoir, which will do 150 damage, and you choose 2 cards in your opponent's hand at random and put them back into their deck. So it's like you can play it because you can accelerate the psychic energy now. You accelerate that energy onto that, and then you sort of hand control them for the rest of the game. And then if you have something like a Path to the Peak or a Power Plant out, it's really hard to draw out of that. Or I should say, and if you're going for second, you try to get the Gengar Mimikyu play out early so that they can't play any cards from their hand. So that sort of is the main combo that we've seen emerge as the winning combo, which is like accelerate a little bit with Shadow Rider, Calyrex, and then
use Horror House so your opponent has a super slow start, and then during that time, as you're bopping them, after you use Horror House GX Plus because you went first, you start accelerating the energies to the backup attacker, and then after you swing one time, you just finish it off, and then, like you said, your opponent is just stuck because they've got nothing in their hand.
Let's look at the fourth place deck and see if they are running Path to the Peaks. No, Chaotic Swells in this one.
The fourth place deck is a little bit different. I mean, you don't want to run Path to the Peak when you're running, like this deck specifically does not want to run Path to the Peak. This is why they run Swell, because they got Mewtwo's in here to be able to copy all these attacks. The Galarian Zapdos, I've seen the Zapdos in several instances in both Shadow Rider Calyrex and ADP. I've seen it in ADP as well, but the requirement that I've seen of it is I have not seen it outside of like Aurora energies.
Yeah, that's so again, for those of you listening, very similar deck. Difference here though is they've actually opted for a couple of Mewtwo's instead of the 4/4 line of Shadow Rider, Calyrex, and they've opted for Swells over Path to the Peak, which personally I actually think that I don't love this route because you can Trevnoir all day long, but if they can still Dedenne and Crobat themselves out of a bad hand, if all they need is like 2 cards, like a Quick Ball and something else, I think that it becomes like maybe not as reliable as a strategy. They got 4th, so like you can't hold too much against them for that. You got to recognize, and yeah, the Aurora energies with the Galarian Zapdos, which will do 170, and it's one colorless.
One shots in Eternatus.
And it's 1 colorless less for every V Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field. So usually you're throwing it in for Eternatus, and then you just bring it in, switch out of the active, 1 Aurora energy, and boom, you're taking 3 more prizes. So it's good because Eternatus is hitting you for weakness. So, so there's that.
Yeah, and I mean, like the difference between like Path to the Peak and Power Plants and stuff, I mean, if you're running the straight if you're running the straight Trevenant Dusknoir, Gengar, Shadow Rider, because Shadow Rider draws an absurd amount of cards. Once you get that Shadow Rider Calyrex going, it does draw so many cards, getting 2 cards for each ability, that you accelerate with the Calyrex's ability. But like, I mean, both of these people are playing these support Pokemon that have these abilities. So like, this person obviously doesn't want to run Power Plant because you got Mewtwo and Dedenne. You don't want to run Path to the Peak because you're running Mewtwo, Zapdos, Crobat, Eldegoss, Dedenne, like all of these Pokemon that just get shut off. So like, and even the last person, they had Crobats in their list. So like, Power Plant is probably just generally better for that specific build. But if we look at the first tournament in the meta game, you'll see Shadow Rider Calyrex, although doing well, was not the number one deck. And this doesn't surprise me at all. Sean, we see Eternatus at the number one deck. 16.3% of the meta share, 5% more of any other deck. Zacian ADP, probably like one of the biggest percentage differences of Zacian ADP not being the first deck in a long time.
Yeah.
Sean. And I'm not surprised, honestly. I'm not surprised by this at all. Shadow Rider Calyrex has been hyped up, with so many different combo pairs. You can play it by itself. You can play it in the two different versions that we just looked at. You can play it, with Alcremie. I know Andrew Mahone was playing it with Alcremie before release. And so, it was being hyped up as, one of the best decks, considered a BDIF. So, naturally, if you can't get the cards like a lot of people can the first day that it releases, on PTCGO, second day, I think it was. But anyways, point stands. A lot of people can't build it yet. So why not just play the counter to it if you know it's going to be a super popular deck? So Eternatus, just running through, and you still can beat ADP as Eternatus. You can still knock out ADP on that first turn. You can still beat a lot of other decks. So
yeah, I think it's a good counterplay. Like Jake, like you're saying, if you don't have all the cards for the fancy new thing, just play the really good deck that just beats it, probably. I think obviously Path to the Peak, though, and that's why That's what's interesting for me to see the two Shadow Rider decks not playing Path to the Peak. I'm actually going to switch over because the following tournament, so that was the very first event. That one was on a Friday, so the day everything released. If you skip ahead just 2 days, you see a very different top of the charts, if you will. Top 1 and 2 deck are both Shadow Rider decks. And
top 1, 2, number 4, number 6.
Yes.
All Shadow Rider Calyrex decks.
And now, all of a sudden, you see the metagame, and Zacian ADP now down at 4th place in meta, 40% win percentage, which is very low. And Shadow Rider it's the second most played deck in the tournament, and I believe one of the highest win percentages at nearly 60%. Absolutely crazy. So
yeah, the second highest win percentage, I think, out of decks that had 10 or more players playing it. Because what was that? The Zacian Luke Metal had over 60% share, because Zacian Luke Metal just loves psychic Pokemon.
That's true. You're not going to do a lot of damage to Zacian Luke Metal, but yeah, I think there's ways around it.
We're seeing this more of a spread. The Eternity. It's like that triangle we mentioned the other week.
Yeah.
It's that triangle. Eternatus beats Shadow Rider Calyrex. Shadow Rider Calyrex beats Urshifu, but Urshifu beats Eternatus. And now, especially a pair that I really think is cool, Sean, the Urshifu Inteleon deck. Let's just take a look at that deck list real quick. Wasn't the best deck, but I think it's a really cool idea with the new Inteleon Rapid Strike, pinging damage counters every single turn. It is a stage 2, but you get a little bit of consistency with that ability line of Drizzile to Inteleon with being able to grab trainer cards and stuff. And so quick shooting, I mean, it's pretty good when you're a deck that doesn't necessarily hit a ton. Urshifu VMAX doesn't necessarily hit a lot, but now, like we mentioned earlier, with the quick shooting and having other options like Telescopic Sight and Zigzagoon and stuff, you can one-shot bench sitters like Dede, Jirachi, Crobat, things like that. That a lot of your opponents will be playing, and then Passimian as well. Yep. Passimian's a really cool card in my opinion.
Yeah, you got a couple of nice one-ups here. You got Hoopa with Evil Admonition there, which I think is interesting, right? This is the Unified Minds, I believe this is. 20 more damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon that has an ability. So those Shadow Rider decks, if you get 2 Shadow Riders, maybe a Crobat. So if you have 3 or 4 things on there, all of a sudden you're doing 90, 100, or you're doing anywhere between 70 to 100 damage, I would say. And then you double that.
Plus weakness.
Yeah. Exactly. So now you're doing like 140 to 200 damage with one energy, one prizer. That's kind of all you need in this deck, because then you can clean up afterwards with the Urshifus and Passimian and and
Path
the
to the
Inteleon.
Peak. Sean's
Yeah.
favorite card.
Yeah. And then there's a Path to the Peak, and you're just one. But this deck, if you're not worried about the weakness part, then you don't need Jirachi. So Path to the Peak can be really disruptive in certain matchups. I think this is an interesting deck. I worry that I would say that this deck is a little bit combo heavy, and I feel like Pokemon right now does not reward combo decks in the way that maybe they did in the past. Because if you think about Shadow Rider, right? The combo in Shadow Rider is just accelerate energy with Shadow Rider Calyrex, and then control your opponent with Trev Noir and Gengar Mimikyu. Like that's kind of the approach. And so you play cards like Path to the Peak or Power Plant to disrupt your opponent, make sure they can't do stuff. But mostly you're just beating face while stopping your opponent from playing. And the same thing with Eternatus. Eternatus is just swing face real hard, real fast. And, those strategies are kind of being rewarded. Even Pikarom. Pikarom is very combo-y, but it's got a lot of draw, and it's always had a lot of draw to do that. But once you get powered up, it's not a combo deck. It's a beat face deck. I put so much energy on the board, you can't stop me. So, I don't know. That's my thoughts on this.
It's very interesting how, this meta develops. And now we look at the Shadow Rider Calyrex. You can see in that top 6, there's 4 of the top 6 spots. There's that Path to the Peak deck that Sean really, really likes. Which one is that?
This is the winning deck.
Okay, the winning
the
deck,
Open.
Demetrius Eden.
Yes. So as you can see, this one runs 4 Path to Peak, which is a very high count, and actually does not even bother with Jirachi GX. I think their whole thought process is, I'm going to stop you from playing cards. I'm going to put cards back into your hand with Trev Noir and Marnie combo. So if you're playing Eternatus, it seems like for this build, they've committed to, I will stop you from getting into an Eternatus VMAX, or even if you do, from getting enough Pokemon on the bench to actually knock me out with weakness, right? That's kind of what this deck is saying to me. I'm just going to control your board, and there's nothing you can do about it.
It's very interesting. I mean, Trevenant Dusknoir, we did not know anything about it, but now you can play a greens build with Path to the Peak. You can just get into these super oppressive combos and be super aggressive right out of the gate and just completely nullify your opponent in anything that they want to do. And, especially when you play a greens version, you can try out, Omastar, like the Inteleon decks were doing for a while, before any sort of water support came out, like Frostmoth. So the flexibility with Shadow Rider Calyrex is just, it's pretty good. I think it's, although this is opening weekend, this again is a very raw meta. It's very limited to what we know and what we've tried. So a lot of people right out of the gate are just going to try different things, a lot of surprises. People aren't going to know how to deter right away. I think Urshifu was the same way, opening weekend, and Eternatus was the same way. Just everybody wanted to play it. Everybody wanted to try it. People didn't really know how to beat it in the beginning. So it'll be interesting to see in the next couple of weeks, how all of this develops.
Yeah, I will be interested to see if something like Spiritomb sort of has a small resurgence. There's a whole group of people out there that love Spiritomb, and if Orbeetle VMAX is not being played, which is not, and yes, there is Urshifu and Inteleon, but that's such a small amount of players. I think maybe an interesting counter would be something like a dark deck that does not rely on abilities like an Eternatus. So you play maybe 80 ADP Spiritomb or something like that, sort of rears its head again, and starts trying to take these really big KOs on these dark weak, because Trev Noir is also weak to dark. So
Gengar Mimikyu is also weak to dark.
And something like a Spiritomb, like if all you need to do is not even bother with the Shadow Rider, but all you have to do is bother with 2 tag teams that, to be frank, 240 and 270, it's actually not that hard with weakness to hit over for a Spiritomb. Spiritomb can get there in 1 turn. So, I don't
Especially
know.
with cards like Spikemuth and the Cape and Escape Rope and Bird Keeper and
Scoop up
Switch. Like
nets.
there's
Yeah,
so much.
I could very well see someone like a Mellow Magikarp, or Luke from Celios and that crew, just deciding to rock up. Maybe there's a reason that it's not run, and I just don't understand why.
Well,
But
the thing is, I learned this earlier today watching Azul. So if you look at Shadow Calyrex Rider V, it has an attack called Astral Barrage, which puts 5 damage counters on. I can't remember if it's an active in a bench or just two of your opponent's Pokemon.
Put 5.
Put 5 damage counters on. So automatically, I feel like Shadow Calyrex Rider has a favorable matchup against like Decidueye or Altaria, right?
Yeah. Unless you're
And
bringing
also
in
with
those
Spiritombs,
umbrellas.
Spiritombs only have 60 without any damage counters or any modifiers on them. So like you could do some damage against a Spiritomb.
You could, yeah. I think the Spiritomb player would have to play it smart. I don't think it's a loot.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's an auto loss because 3 energy, you're not evolving. It's not really great.
It's not but think about it with the energy acceleration and the draw power of Shadow Calyrex Rider VMAX, like you can definitely churn these 3 attacks. And outside of Spiritomb, Spiritomb's probably going to be able to one-hit KO this, but like Decidueye and Altaria,
yes.
you kind of have multiple turns to get this next Shadow Calyrex Rider V out of the bench and onto the field. So like you don't even have to get it powered up in a single turn.
No,
per se.
I think you're absolutely right about that. About like how Altaria and Decidueye are in a really bad spot right now.
They have to play Umbrella, and then Shadow Calyrex Rider has to play like Tool Jammer or Tool Scrapper, or like even if they just play Tool Scrapper, now Decidueye's got to play Tool Scrapper or Jammer Scrapper, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes those decks not really viable right now because to your point, you can outlast them. You could play the Gengar Mimikyu against that kind of deck. It can be brutal. And then you Trevnor them and they don't have a hand and now they don't have any draw.
And you don't have a lot of Pokemon to start a Giga. Like you play like 3 Snorlax or maybe 4, and then you play like 4 Rowlets in a Decidueye deck, and that's it. That's all the Pokemon that you play. And so especially if you get turn 1 Horror Housed, with 50 HP on that old Rowlet there, you better hope that you've got 6 energies and 3 Snorlaxes off of the draw. Like it's tough.
Yeah, I don't think they're in a very good spot, those decks. But I mean, obviously Shadow Rider's doing very well. How is the other horsey doing? Let's see here. So
the ice type horse is actually not terrible. You can look at that list there to get an idea of what it is. It doesn't play the Frostmoth. Playing that Inteleon Sharpshooter kind of mix style with the Melanie we know is good. Draw support with energy acceleration. It's like a mini welder almost.
Interesting they're playing Leon. Pokemon. One Leon is interesting.
I think the Leon is pretty. I mean, you think about it. Like, look at the data. 10 plus, 120. 120 is 250, and then you can maybe get some. You have options of either like getting some pings with the Inteleon to be able to knock out those 270 Pokemon of like the tag teams or whatever, or if you get some pings as well. So let's say you ping twice, got 2 of those. You got both of your quick shooting Inteleons, that's 290 plus Leon is 320. Knocking out some VMAXs there.
You're knocking out the Shadow Rider.
Like with the Inteleons, you're probably doing it multiple turns, so you can even set up something so you could go past it. You can go the 340, you could go the 360 if you want, if you were able to get it out fast enough.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about this deck is that like the strategy of a lot of the other decks is like, hey, I'm going to not let you draw because I'll put down Path to the Peak. Well, this one's like, I have Melanie. I have Research. I have my own Marnies. I'm actually fine. I don't need a draw engine based on abilities. The only card that Path to the Peak even affects in this deck is 1 to Dene. So not really a problem for this deck from what it looks like. You've got, buckets and stamps and your own series of Path to the Peak. You got 3 of them in here. 7 water energy. I'm sure it works for them, but boy howdy, that scares me.
Because Melanie doesn't come from the discard.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, it does. It does come from the discard. Attach a water energy from your discard. That's gross.
You don't have to be running like 11 energies in this deck. Plus, you only have a cost of 2. So
I hadn't really thought about that, but that actually makes it in some ways better than Welder. As long as the energy requirements for water type Pokemon don't get too costly, this is better than Welder, because once you get 1 energy in there, especially in a deck that's already discarding with the effect of Max Lance, it's fine. You just got to have 1 energy in hand afterwards to do it again.
And think about the consistency of this deck too. We've seen with Rapid Strike Urshifu, people playing these mix of quick shooting and then shady dealings in Teleons. You have 4 quick balls to find like Sobbles and start setting up, or other Pokemon. You've got 3 level balls. Drizzile is a 90 HP Pokemon, so it fits with the level balls. Pokemon Communication as well, having a couple of those. Evolution Incense. You honestly have a lot of consistency in this deck, in my opinion. I think this is very cool. A lot of people were kind of underplaying Shadow Calyrex Rider VMAX, and look at that with the ability Frost Over that you combo with the Scoop Up Nets. Potentially, you can attach more energies.
Yeah, I'm honestly, the only thing I'm a little surprised in what I think we'll actually see make its way into this deck, maybe instead of Leon. Who knows? I think Cheryl is a good potential inclusion in this deck. I think we said it when we were reviewing it. I just think if you're already discarding both energy to do 250 plus damage, and if you're getting those extra pings with Inteleon to set things up, it just makes sense to me that, run 1 Cheryl. Maybe you can get all the heal that you need while nothing has any energy on. You attach, and then you Frostlass to attach the second and do it all over again. To me, that's a really powerful combo that could set your opponent back a turn, because the only thing that's OHKOing this, probably, the only thing that's knocking this out is like Zacians, right? Because you're weak to metal, which is pretty bad, let's be frank. But, if
ADP on the down low, though.
Yeah, if ADPZ is on the down, it's trending downwards, and so long as Luke Metal also stays at bay a little bit, might be a good time to start bringing out them metal weak Pokemon again.
I think it would be interesting. And then what I would see with this list, trying to fit the Cheryl, I thought not only Cheryl, so you could take out something like the Tool Scrapper if you're so dedicated to Leon. You want the Leon so bad. I think Tool Scrapper is probably all right because you're already somewhat disruptive with Path to the Peak. I don't know exactly if Tool Scrapper is super necessary, but you could try it. But also maybe taking out one of the stamps. I think maybe taking out one of the stamps and putting a Pal Pad in, because especially if you're going to run Cheryl and you're sticking to the Leon, having multiple one of supporters, I think a Pal Pad would be kind of an interesting idea, because not only can that help get those back, so then you don't have to run something like Eldegoss or whatever, which Eldegoss gets shut off in Path to the Peak anyways. But you can find different things like Barney, if you need more Melanies, maybe you had to discard one early and you wanted back, you can have that in there. It could be, I don't know, it could be interesting.
You could also take a page out of the Mewtwo Rillaboom book and run a Cynthia and Caitlin. Because, Pal Pad is great at getting it back in your deck, and you get both back, to your point. But for whatever one of supporter, if you just need to get it back in hand for a future turn because you're not going to get knocked out later, getting it back in hand and drawing 3, because that's the only other thing I think this deck, if you do too many things, this deck doesn't have that much draw. It's got Melanie, but outside of Melanie and the Research Marnie combo, this deck's not super draw heavy. I don't think you need it that much, but because you do have the Drizzile line to go get you individual cards that you may need. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's more potential for this Ice Rider here, so long as Zacian is not as prevalent. Big
Yeah, and we'll
caveat.
see. We'll see also as the weeks go by, like Chilling Reign and more stuff.
Yeah.
I just really like the Inteleon. I think the quick shooting Inteleon is just so cool. I was a huge fan, or well, I mean, I didn't play during the era, but I love the Decidueye GX. I love like when because I played in an online retro tournament of the Decidueye GX where you're stage 2 and you're constantly pinging.
Hmm.
It's like mathematical almost, or it's like tricky because you have to know when to ping things, where to ping your things, and it's constant every single turn. I think that's super, super satisfying. So seeing quick shooting and Teleon get a bunch of partners right out of
Uh-huh.
the gate is like super cool in my opinion.
Well, I think it helps that it's like just once per turn, but it's not like when you evolve, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
once you get into it, just keep it on your bench and you get 2 free pings. You don't have to do the active thing that Orbital VMAX has to do. Because like, look, Orbital VMAX just spread 1 to everything. That's nice, but to be honest, it's a little bit inefficient. Because 1 to
Having to be in
everything,
the active and constantly like
right?
switching around,
And
all the
and
time and hoping that you hit some switches and
yeah,
sometimes leaving the orbital in the active.
and in a game where it rewards you, like the way that Pokemon exists right now, it rewards you for taking as few knockouts as possible with as many prizes on those knockouts. So it's like, why would I play a strategy that wastes 5 out of 6 damage counters every turn when I could instead play a strategy that places 2 damage counters where I'm going to need it for those 3 prizes? So,
Keep trying on that Blaziken Zeraora. It's not great. It probably won't be that great, but I really want someone to crack that code.
I'll quickly pull a list up.
Please.
This was the best list here. Uh, I mean, Zeraora is cool. I'll grant Zeraora that. I don't know.
This card is the Blaziken VMAX is so good.
It,
2 colorless energies using a rapid strike energy just fulfills this, and attaching 2 Pokemon energy cards, not basic energy cards. So think about attaching more rapid strike energies onto your bench Pokemon, being able to power up Zeraoras or maybe another Blaziken VMAX. Like, even though it's 130, right? 130 is okay. That effect is awesome.
sure. I think conceptually this is good. I think the problem that this has is right now the meta, like 130 is a pretty bad number in the meta, I think.
Yeah, 130 is not great.
Because like let's combo that. Like say you do a 130 and you pair it with a crossfist, right? It does 160 more, which like if one of your other
That
rapid
doesn't
strike
even knock out
Pokemon,
Pikarom.
yeah, that's like well, no, 130 plus 260 does. But yeah, this
Well,
alone doesn't.
if you boss that to the bench, or maybe it gets left on the
Right.
bench.
I just think that it's kind of a weird situation where like the math doesn't really work super well. Like 130 plus 260 is great, but I think it's the strategy here that you get 1 Zeraora powered up, and then you basically attack with Zeraora over and over again with the rapid strike energies. And that way you're doing 260 damage every turn.
I mean, you have other effects like the telescopic sight,
Yeah.
the past simian. You have these other effects as well, but yeah, it's kind of like not recycling them, but like cycling Blaziken and
Between.
Zeraora through, And honestly, at times you can also go, because of your Blaziken, if you got 2 Zeraoras on the bench and you attach like a lightning to one, rapid strike energy to the other, you could do them in succession, the Zeraoras in succession.
Yeah. I guess my main challenge with this one is that like you're not hitting anything for a relevant weakness, and you are getting hit back at least on Zeraora for a very relevant weakness. And if Ice Raider picks up in popularity for Blaziken, and like to me it's just like it's a cool concept that just falls short. Maybe in the future it will be a better deck.
I love it. It does feel kind of combo-y though, right? Because you have to attack with Blaziken to be able to get those things. You've got artillery to search all these things, and
yeah, you've got an order of
the combo-y
operations.
deck that I feel like will not suffice.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any other thoughts on the meta as it currently stands. I think my gut would tell me that Shadow Rider will continue to climb. Eternatus will actually, I think, climb with it as it climbs.
I think there will be about the same the
Yeah.
whole way.
Yeah.
I think they'll be about the same the whole way. I would think that like Zacian Luke Metal maybe trickles up a little bit, starts getting more into like the 6-7% of meta shares, not sitting under 4 for sure. I mean, it's definitely like a different deck that not a lot of people can play and get adjusted to, but I think Josh Sutherland is killing it with all the time with Luke Metal. I think just made top 16 of NA, so congratulations. With that Luke Metal.
I will say there's one, I don't know what deck it's going to be, but I actually think right now, once, like, give it 2 more weeks, I think at that point a counterbox deck will probably appear. Because if you actually look at this lineup, what do you have here? Like in a lot of these decks, you have really big linear 3-prize decks that actually take more time to set up than they did in the tag team era, like when it was only tag teams, right? These are all VMAXs we're talking about for the most part. And I think a good counterbox deck that says, okay, I'm going to plan to hit your guys for weakness, but I'm going to plan for all the weaknesses, right? So like maybe you run it as a core Spiritomb, but you run a couple of other different ones in there that will hit something else for weakness. I don't know what that would be for Eternatus or for Ice Rider. It'll be limited by the kind of single prizer, but what I mean is a single prizer counterbox. I actually think the meta is in a really good spot for that right now. Because there's
like go back to the old Zap Beasts.
Kind of, yeah. I don't know what those cards are yet. I think Metal has always suffered from like there's not really a great single prize Metal attacker to counter things like Ice Rider. But if you're okay with that, if you're okay not worrying about that one, then like, yeah, deal with find you, and maybe the counterbox includes like 1 Galarian Zapdos as a 2-prize attacker for Eternatus, and I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Have you seen in Japan now that EV Heroes and stuff is out? Have you seen the counterbox?
No.
It runs Galarian Moltres, Urshifu VMAX, and Sylveon VMAX.
I wouldn't even know what to make of that, but that will definitely
be. Galarian Moltres. Hold on, let me.
Yeah,
pull
the
up
attaching a dark energy to.
Yeah, it attaches dark energies to itself, but it does 190, and so you're one-shotting Calyrex VMAXs.
That's nice.
Of Shadow Rider, and so you have that to knock it out. You have the Urshifu to knock out and take care of like Eternatus, and then Sylveon as well. Sylveon VMAX, it would just handle all the Urshifus that way. And so it's like a really weird and abstract deck that I saw. I wish I had it on me right now. I'll try to post it on the YouTube at least.
I will say,
try to find that list, but like, holy moly.
It's unfortunate that the EVs will be coming to us at the same time as Rayquaza VMAX, because I think all of those decks that are kind of cool are going to be like, yeah, that's cool and all, but what about Rayquaza?
Yeah, it's that deck is a deck that maximizes on hitting for weakness, and then all of a sudden Rayquaza just comes into the picture, right. And it's like, I have no weakness.
I can one-shot everything. Good luck. Try countering this.
How do you counter that? You put your own Rayquaza in. Isn't it Rapid Strike?
It may be. I'm not. It probably is.
If it's Rapid Strike Rayquaza. Probably not, to be honest. It requires fire and lightning, right?
We're talking about different metas now. Let's sign this one off, Jake.
Look,
how about that?
I'm a futuristic dude, Sean. I got goals, I got dreams here, and Pokemon will be a game that you and I will probably be playing a lot again someday.
I hope so.
Someday.
I hope I need in-person play, man.
I keep watching Pokemon. I watch Pokemon trading card game like all the time, but like I really don't log on to the trading card game. Like I haven't done much on ladder for a while, but I like watch it all the time. I constantly watch it.
Well, I need to do more homework. I will just say that. I will out myself here, but locals.
You're doing
I think,
great, Sean. You're doing great.
Thank you. All right. I will that's the end of the episode. We don't do outros here except when Jake does the one outro one time.
This is going to be the most phenomenal outro of all time. I got the Pikachus going on right now. I'm rocking all the Pikachus. Sean's got the pews out here, and you know what? You can pew pika your way on out of here, because this is the end of the Metapod podcast episode. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast that revolves around the evolving meta, and we'll see you next week.